Hi there. So, our BBC investigation has uncovered an operation by several uh, non governmental organizations or the NGOs from the UK, from the United States, and particularly in their expose, they targeted this NGO called the International Justice Mission, IJM. And this International Justice Mission has been lying to the United States and 300 churches from the US to get about $100 million every year through lying. So from the expose, you can see they're saying that this NGO gets 100 million US dollar in funding annually. And this has been going on for the past 2 years. And they get most of their funding from 300 churches in the United States. And what they do here in Africa, they go to these poorer families in the interior of Africa. They go deep into the interior of the African continent and they abduct children from poor families. So they come at night, raid the huts of these poor families at night using local authorities, which they have bribed. And then they take these children to their constructed children's home. And once they do that, they invite officers and inspectors from these 300 churches to come and see the kind of work they are doing in Africa. So from the BBC expose, there is this story here which happened in Ghana, in the north of Ghana, in a poor village in Ghana. And the village is called Moginya. Now, what happened, according to the expose or the BBC investigation, is that it has a handful of families and 24 people in total. Basically, it's a farming kind of community, smaller huts, and then they have their farms. And it's like a dot in the middle of the expanse of the farmland in northern Ghana. That's what the story goes. So there were cars, which are in that part of Ghana, cars are very rare, even during the day. So they say cars are rare sight during the day, let alone at night. So the man called Musa left his hut at night to go outside to relieve himself, to take a pee. And when he got out, he saw about 6 cars with their lights on coming towards their smaller village. And definitely he had to hide behind a tree. So he hid behind a tree and watched. And when he saw armed men from the cars approach the 2 homes, he shouted in an attempt to wake up the other people in these 3 or 4 huts. But it was too late. So before anyone could act, the men entered their huts and forcibly removed 4 children, including a girl called Fatima, who was 11 years old. They took her by her arms and legs from the room where she was sleeping with her grandparents. So 4 children were abducted at gunpoint. And Fatima's grandmother tried to kind of resist, and they pointed a gun at her neck. Can you imagine? They are stealing your children, and when you try to resist, they put a gun on your neck to kind of threaten you. And now they took those kids away. Now, it turns out the men are police officers in Ghana, and they were there, the Ghanaian police officers, they were there under what they call the Ghana's Human Trafficking Act. In other words, they are saying that these children have been stolen from their real families and brought to this village family, which is not the case. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because this NGO called IGM pays or bribes Ghanaian police officers, and they also bribes court officials and even judges, so that if they abduct your child and you try to go to court, you won't get justice, definitely. So this family, actually, one of the family members went to court, and the case was dismissed because the judge said that even if the children are theirs, there was a high likelihood that they were going to use that child to do manual labor or to do farming. I mean, so you ask yourself, what's wrong with that? In the United States, in the heart of the United States, children do farming. They help their parents to farm. I've seen kids even driving tractors. I've seen kids, teenagers, kind of doing farming activities, storing hay, doing a lot of farm activities. So what's wrong with that? Why is it wrong for an 11-year-old girl to help in the farm in Africa? So you understand. So it's that's what they are doing in Africa. They come to our poor villages, they bribe our police officers, they bribe our court officials, then they abduct our children, and then they take these 1,000 children, 2,000 children in their own constructed children's home, and then invite the financiers from the United States to come and see. So you can see this IGM has 300 churches in the UK, where they get about 100 million. In the US, they even get funding from the government itself. They get a lot of money from the United States government as part of the humanitarian kind of kitty that the US has. So they get a lot of money. And I went to one of their Twitter accounts, and I saw they keep advertising themselves and asking private people to donate. So to them, money is never enough. Look at what they wrote here. Promised by a labor recruiter that if she came with him, Parabai would find good work with good pay. But Parabai was deceived and then caught in a deadly trap. Then they go ahead to say donations before that first July will help 2 times the rescue. Click here. Then they ask you to donate. So this is an NGO that is making this a business. You go to their website, they say that they are dedicated to anti-slavery. But what they are doing is they're actually abducting and enslaving children, and then using those children to extort money from churches, from their governments, and from private people, because that's what they are doing. So they have made it a business. And you can see the image they have there. Definitely this woman is not probably a slave. This is her and her family. They are poor people in India. Maybe she was asked to smile for the camera. They took the photo, and then they go ahead to make a story about her. They even gave her a fake name called Parabai. Most likely that's not her real name. And they want you to feel empathy and donate, because this woman apparently is in slavery. So that is the story. I don't know what you guys think, but a lot of NGOs in Africa actually do that. They come, they abduct children, they put them in these nice rented flats, or they even construct their own compounds, and then they call their financiers to send inspectors to come and see the kind of good work they are doing in Africa against those children's will. Because what's wrong with Fatima living? He's the girl, by the way. What's wrong with Fatima living with her grandmother and her uncles and her mother in a poor village where they do farming? She's not interested in living in a house with electricity. What she's interested in is living with her family. That's what is most important to her. So you cannot decide for her that is not a good life. Let's take her away from her parent by force and try to educate her with Western education and give her some nice toys in the city. Maybe that's not what she wants. People want to live with their own families everywhere.